So here's the situation. I'm up in Montana for a film festival, and I thought it'd be fun to come to Glacier National Park for a couple of days as well while the festival's happening. My commitment's in the evening, so I've got the whole day, and I thought it would be great to spend the day here in the park. And since I'm up here by myself, I thought it would be a good idea to tag along with people that are hiking, but there's not a ton of people here, which I have found incredibly interesting. I expected there to be a lot of people because it's like peak fall season. Now, I'm on the east side of the park and I'm heading west, and I might find more people as I head west, but there's been nobody to creep up on. So I'm not doing a ton of hikes because I'm by myself and I don't want to get eaten by a bear. And I think that's reasonable. So we're going to be hitting some spots that are easy to get to, spots that are not deep in the woods or on a trail, and just making the most of our windy day. So let's take the Leica M11 with the 28 Summicron and the 90 Summerit, and let's go out and see what we can find, and hopefully not get eaten by a bear. You can probably hear how crazy and intense the wind is just from the car. I just hopped on going to the Sun Road to head up to Wild Goose Island Overlook. A couple of years ago, I did a couple of days of sunrises there. And honestly, it's like one of my favorite sunrise spots in the US. I've never seen it in the middle of the day though. So I got a confession. I used to sit out the midday. Like, I wouldn't go out and shoot, and I would just do other things. And honestly, I'm like so over that mentality because I want to make photos all day long. I don't want to just work it when the lighting's good, you know? For that reason, I've spent quite a bit of time learning to shoot in harsh lighting. There's like two tricks to this. The first is to try to find evenly lit scenes. So don't shoot in like crazy broken up light and shadow areas because it just looks really busy and really messy and you won't like your photographs. So shoot maybe like in all shade with bright places behind you or the other way around. Like try to just keep the bright and dark spots bigger, taking up more of your composition so it's not broken up so much. And the second thing really is just I try to shoot scenes that make contrast the hero, whether it's not a lot of contrast, like maybe it's all in the shade or all in the light and I don't see a lot of shadow, or it is like a very stark dividing line between light and shadow. I have a feeling like a lot of my photography today is going to be working with very dark shadows and very bright light. Because as I look at the mountains ahead of me, that is basically what it looks like. There's some dark shadows, and then when the sun's hitting it, there's some intense light. So with all of that said, let's go try to see what we can find around Wild Goose Island Overlook and try not to get blown away or eaten by a bear. Okay, so hiking the Hidden Lake Trail because it's like 1,000 people. I'm not too worried about bears getting me here. A guy just walked by me whistling the Star Wars theme, and now that theme song is in my head. All right, so heading back to the car, gonna continue down towards West Glacier. Gonna stop a couple more times, but I'm not expecting anything spectacular. Clouds have really come in and made the lighting really mixed. I've been half tempted a couple of times today to say, you know what, I should just head to the hotel. But I keep telling myself that a good photographer can work with any conditions. And that's what I'm trying to be, trying to improve, trying to get better, and ultimately have fun making photos. Well, as you can tell, the day got really nice. We had this really windy sunrise followed by like an entire day of crazy cloud cover and mixed lighting. But here I am in West Glacier, perfect blue skies and sunshine, this empty beach here at Lake McDonald all to myself, and these well-lit mountains right behind me. If today one had a theme, it would be, you just gotta make it work. Shooting in the wind this morning was so intense. It was the most wind I've ever experienced. It was honestly kind of hard to breathe, like with the wind blasting in your face. But I'm here, and I'm here for this reason. So, just had to make it work. And then as the lighting got really crazy throughout the day, as clouds came in and we had that broken light, using some of those tips where you try to maximize or minimize dark spots and bright spots and try to shoot in either low contrast or really intense shadows, super dark shadows and bright spots because you plan in post to make that over accentuated. I'm honestly not sure how they are going to turn out, but if that is my focus, then I'm really missing this. Like, I wish you guys could just hear and experience what I'm experiencing. Glacier National Park, day one. We're wrapping up. Tomorrow morning, we're gonna head out to another sunrise shoot, see what else we can get into, maybe try to approach some of the spots I went today, but hopefully in better lighting, who knows. At the end of the day, what we have is what we have, and what we have is more than enough. Okay, I'm gonna try to shoot a self-portrait by balancing my Rolleiflex on top of my Sony. Got it balanced. Gonna set the timer and let's see how this goes. I'm gonna throw the mic down, hold on. Okay, we're kicking off day 2 here at Wild Goose Island. This is the best conditions I've ever experienced here. There's no wind. It is the complete opposite of yesterday. It's really incredible. I'm gonna try something kind of nuts today. I'm gonna put this Polarizer on my 28. I'm a buy it once guy. So everything I have for filters is an 82. Step-up rings are way cheaper than new filters, though it looks utterly ridiculous. I mean, come on. Is that not a thing of beauty or what? As you can see, this is an incredible, incredible sunrise. It's completely different than it was yesterday. There's no wind. We have a beautiful sky. The lighting is like completely perfect. And I've done a couple of other sunrises here over the years. The very first time I was here was smoky and windy. And while I still would probably say that was my favorite experience ever, just because I drove up here in the dark, I had never seen Glacier before. And then as the light came up, this is the first thing I saw, and I had never seen it, and it like blew my mind. The second time I came, it was incredibly windy, and I tried to use the slow shutter technique to get like the water to be smooth, and it just looks like hot garbage. Hate that photo. Then of course, yesterday we were here in that harsh midday lighting, and then this morning, obviously, this is just incredible. One thing I was thinking about though was that first time and how much gear I carried back then as opposed to now. That first time I was here, I had a Peak Design travel bag with my Sony kit, which included the A7R III, the 16-35, the 35, the 50, the 135, and a 70-200, and that bag weighed a ton, and actually had it sitting right here. Today I'm out here simply with my Leica M11, and I've got a 28 Summicron on, of course, with this ridiculous looking step-up ring polarizer setup. But even my entire bag with me today, just the messenger bag with a small Peak Design cube in it, is carrying this camera, this lens, a 35 and a 90 for this camera, my Rolleiflex, and my Pocket 3. All of that has been my carry around the park for the last couple of days, and it just is interesting to go to show you how much we think gear is going to matter, and we bring all this gear, but really, we just need the simplest setup. So being out here right now is quite different than before, and honestly, the sunrise is perfect, and I shouldn't be missing it talking to you. No matter where I go, what national park I'm in, or honestly anywhere but like a major city, I rarely, if ever, run into another person shooting a Leica M. I see people out and they're shooting their Sonys and Canons and Nikons, you know, these big cameras with big lenses. And I used to do that as well. But I've really discovered that the Leica M is, to me, like the perfect camera for this kind of work. It's the perfect camera for landscape photography. And I understand that like the main reason I don't see a lot of Leica cameras out in the wild is because they're insanely expensive. And if you were to like really just break down like a percentage of users, like if we took Fuji, Canon, Sony, Nikon, and Leica and said, what percentage of users are shooting a Leica M? It's probably less than 1%. I could be wrong, but that's just me making up a number based upon my opinions. But if we go back to that part about it being expensive, and also what I said earlier about not needing a ton of gear, If I was to think back to when I was here before with my Sony kit, with that camera and all of those lenses, the 16 to 35, 35, 50, 135, and 70 to 200, and those were all GM lenses. Those were all good lenses. That entire kit alone is valued at more than my M11 with the 28, which is what I just shot this whole morning on. So is it really money, or is it like price per item and this idea that we have to have all of this stuff so we don't miss a moment? And I used to be guilty of that myself. I used to think, I really need to make sure I have this many focal lengths and this much gear because I don't want to be in a situation like the right time and right place, but not have the right tools. But the entire ethos of photography is compromise. Just the exposure triangle alone, as we're trying to balance the aperture and the shutter and the ISO, is compromise. We trade off one for the sake of another. And I think that the commercialism of photography has made us believe that we've got to try to acquire everything we can to not have to deal with a compromise. Like my shoot just now probably would have been better with like a 24, maybe even a 21, because it was so wide, I just couldn't get everything in the 28. But the compromise is I got what I got. And should I say, oh, I really should buy a 21 for this one type of usage? No, I had a 21 and I absolutely hated it. It's crazy. I just went behind a mountain and now the sun is not on me. And the light on this has significantly dropped. But anyway, do I need a 21 for like everyday usage? Should I spend money on a 21? As someone who has and didn't use it and didn't like it, no, we don't need all of these things. We just need to learn to compromise and be content. You know, truth be told, I probably could have gotten away with even fewer lenses than I brought. I brought 3. I brought the 28, the 35, and the 90 on this trip. And because they're M lenses, they're all really small. So I'm not like super concerned about size and weight like I would have been had I still been shooting Sony. But really, I'm using the 28 for my wide shots and the 90 for details because I do like details. I like close-up, punched-in shots as well. So why even did I bring the 35? It's because when you're far away from really big stuff, 28 can shrink it down too much and you lose some of the grandeur. And I didn't want to lose that grandeur. 35 gives me just enough more to punch in, and then I can retain some of that, you know, tight, punched in look. Just realized I'm on this trail by myself and I'm seeing a sign about making sure you have bear spray, which I don't have. All good though. I'm not getting too far from the car. Hopefully I don't get eaten by a bear. All right, I'm here to get some photos of this spot. Been here before. Didn't love my compositions from last time, like 4 years ago. Let's try this here. I know in landscape photography, you're supposed to layer and stack things and have these like beautiful foregrounds. And I'm not opposed to any of that. But for me, sometimes I just want this big epic scene. I wish I could get over these trees and just get a photo of the lake, this mountain with that sunlight. Just keep it really simple. All right, I'm gonna try to step up to this rock. That got me up a little higher, but now this tree's all up in my space. The only time using the back of the screen on an M camera is acceptable is with a polarizer. That polarizer is gonna darken the sky, make the clouds pop, and lose some of the reflection off the water. You guys want to see a little Leica meter trick? And this is probably true of any camera, but it's definitely true on Leica. This is a high contrast scene, and if this scene here with the trail, when I point my camera and shoot, it blows out the highlights. See if we can see that. You probably can't see that, but just trust me, the highlights are blown. Now, if I do that same thing again, and I meter off of the sky, and then I press and hold the shutter halfway and bring it down, now the highlights are what's being metered, and it didn't try it there. See, look at the difference. That's the sky, Look at the bottom versus that. It's trying to like compensate and expose, and I have highlight metering on, but it's just not doing good enough. So when you press and hold half, bring it down, compose, and fire it off, you're all good then. Okay, so back to that whole thing about Leica photographers in the wild. I personally feel there's like 3 really compelling reasons to consider a Leica for landscape photography. The first is obviously the size. Like if you were to compare the kit that I used to carry, that I demonstrated back at Wild Goose Island Overlook to this kit, size is completely different, like worlds apart. The second is that from a technical standpoint, the Leica M does everything that you need it to do and nothing that you don't need it to do this kind of work, to do landscape photography. Like for this kind of stuff, you don't need autofocus. You just set your aperture, your ISO, and your shutter, and you just go for it. You're not like chasing anything around, so you don't have to like overthink all these things you think you need that you don't. Whether it's a film camera or a digital camera, it does everything you need. And the third reason, and this really just goes again to like the whole ethos of photography. Shooting the Leica camera without all of this other gear and all of these other things with it, you know, just having the camera and, you know, a couple of lenses and maybe like minimal things that I might use, it just allows me to be more present. I'm not overthinking the gear. I'm not shuffling through my bag constantly. I've literally just been with this 28 and the M11 for almost everything I've done for the last 2 days, except for a few times I put the 90 on and once with a 35. But otherwise, I'm actually walking around with my camera out, one lens, just what happens, happens. Photography is great for capturing a moment and like memorializing that moment, but you don't want to miss the moment for photography. So a minimal camera with minimal gear will let you just be present because you really don't have a lot to think about that can distract you. All right, let's drive over to the toilets. The National Park System has, you know, spectacular toilets. And I've had a lot of coffee this morning and water because yesterday I didn't have enough coffee or water and I paid for it with a headache. Yeah, I know this thing wants me to put my seatbelt on, but I'm just going right here. I'll be right back. Part of storytelling is like telling the whole story and not leaving out all the little memorable details. Like I rented a mini SUV because that's typically what I rent when I travel. When I got there, they didn't have any, so they gave me a Jeep. I'm not complaining. It's been fun driving the Jeep. It's wasn't my expectations, but that's part of the story of this trip. And what I like about right here is that it has a similar shape of the Jeep. Plus I have that fall tree, that yellow tree just in the background. All right, let's keep going. I decided to pick up a hitchhiker. As I was driving along, I saw a guy looking for a ride. His name's Julian. This is Julian. Well, that was pretty cool. I saw a guy hitchhiking, so I figured, the hell. So I stopped, picked him up, and he rode with me here to Hidden Lake. I'm going to do this trail again because yesterday was really, really ugly. I'm going to downsize what I'm carrying, though, and literally only bring what I have to have. Today is just, like, insanely beautiful. Not as windy. Obviously, all those dark skies are gone. Pretty stoked to get there and see it in much better lighting. All right, we're coming to the end of the trail, and one thing I didn't expect but have been really stoked to see is we have some low clouds in the valley up here. It's really cool, so I'm excited to capture that. And of course now, I wish I would have brought my 90, but it is what it is. being back here a second time and having totally different conditions is obviously going to change the approach I'm going to take to editing these photos. When I feel like I can make the light the hero of the shot, so like there's a lot of contrast, or like yesterday it was cloudy, there was some sun popping through, I tend to prefer black and white because black and white makes light the hero. A day like today where we've got a mix of color, deep shadows, bright lights. One other thing I've been doing on this trip that I've never really done before is intentionally shooting some big panoramas. And that is because I don't have a super wide lens. So I've almost had the thought, like, what if I stitch some photos together? Something I never do. Like, what could that look like? If you let the meter make decisions, then your shots could be metered differently, and that could end up being a problem for you. So when you're shooting a panorama, that's a good time to be fully manual and not let it do the work for you. God, it's beautiful up here. And I'm in no rush to get back. Just gonna hang out, see what happens. I'm trying a film panorama, probably not going to work at all. And we won't know because this video is going to come out before I develop all this. Check out the Instagram though, because if it does work, I'm going to share it. Oh, also, there's a link below to a gallery. And if it does work, I'm going to share it on that gallery as well. Of course, that gallery won't have it if you're watching this video when it first comes out, but I'll update it. So come back and visit sometime. This is one of the most iconic photo spots in the park, and for good reason. I mean, obviously, look at this. I love the way that the light is coming down and the shadows are coming down and making like a point in the center of that massive cliff. God, this is absolutely beautiful. All right, we are headed to a, whoa, God. This dirt road's kicking my butt. We are headed to, oh my gosh, I can't even get started here. So we're headed to Bowman Lake, which is not in like going to the Sun Road or around that area. It's actually pretty far north, pretty close to Canada. I've never been up here before because it's so far, and I've always had like a packed schedule and haven't been able to just have the free time to come up here like I'm doing today. I have never heard a negative word about it. So I'm pretty pumped to like get up here and see what we can make of it. God, I got to get there first though. And this dirt road is kicking my butt. It's a good thing I'm in the Jeep. All right, guys, that's going to wrap our time in Glacier National Park. I really hope you enjoyed this video. And if you want to see the photos a little closer and maybe just go into them a little deeper, I've got a link right below that'll take you to my website and you can see the types of images that you can make with a Leica rangefinder when you're out doing landscapes. If you're not subscribed to this channel, be sure to give it a subscribe, like, comment, all the YouTube things. Let me know what you think. I hope your legs are warmer than mine are at this moment from wherever you are. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.